Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you all very much for rising early to be here to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Most people in Newcastle are probably sleeping right now, probably hungover from the night's activities, or staying up late doing whatever they're doing. So there's very rare personalities that come together so early in the morning to hear from scripture, shastra, to chant and dance together. So I would like to congratulate all of you for being such rare jewels, such precious gems in Newcastle. They don't know how fortunate they are to have such wonderful persons who are carrying on the Sankirtan Yajna, and for sure it's benefiting the entire city, maybe the entire world. We may not understand that, but it's the truth. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I also thank you for your tolerance of me and for inviting me to speak and be part of this wonderful community. Hare Krishna. So I've been asked to speak on a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that I think you all are systematically going through. And because today is a sacred street party, then we'll also try to speak a little bit about this, if we can connect the topic. So we're reading from the Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. And anyone knows what the first canto is entitled? Creation. Very good. And we're reading from chapter 3, and chapter 3 is entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. And today we're supposed to read text number 4, so 1 through 4. And I presume it's up on the board? Yes. Amazing. So before we begin, if everyone can please repeat. The invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Pashantyado rupam adabra chakshusha. Sahasrapadoru bhujanadadbhutam. Sahasramurda shravanakshinaashikam. Sahasramalyambara kundalola sat. Someone else would like to try? Pashanti. See. Adaha. The form of the Purusha. Rupam. Form. Adabra. Perfect. Chakshusha. By the eyes. Sahasrapada. Thousands of legs. Uru. Thighs. Bhujanana. hands and faces.
Hands and faces.
Adbhutam.
Adbhutam.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Sahasra.
Sahasra.
Thousands of.
Thousands of.
Murda.
Murda.
Heads.
Heads.
Shravana.
Shravana.
Ears.
Ears.
Akshi.
Akshi.
Eyes.
Eyes.
Nashikam.
Nashikam.
Noses.
Noses.
Sahasra.
Sahasra.
Thousands.
Thousands.
Mauli.
Mauli.
Garlands.
Garlands.
Ambara.
Ambara.
Dresses.
Dresses.
Kundala.
Kundala.
Earrings.
Earrings.
Ulasat.
Ulasat.
All glowing.
All glowing.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
The devotees, with their perfect eyes, see the transcendental forms of the Purusha, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces, all extraordinary. In that body, there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They are decorated with thousands of helmets and glowing earrings and are adorned with garlands. Purport. With our present materialized senses, we cannot perceive anything of the Transcendental Lord. Our present senses are to be rectified by the process of devotional service, and then the Lord Himself becomes revealed to us. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Transcendental Lord can be perceived only by pure devotional service. So it is confirmed in the Vedas that only devotional service can lead one to the side of the Lord, and that only devotional service can reveal Him. In the Brahma Samhita, also, it is said that the Lord is always visible to the devotees whose eyes have been anointed with the tinge of devotional service. So, we have to take information of the transcendental form of the Lord from persons who have actually seen Him with perfect eyes smeared with devotional service. In the material world also, we do not always see things with our own eyes. We sometimes see through the experience of those who have actually seen or done things. If that is the process for experiencing a mundane object, it is more perfectly applicable in matters of transcendental. So, only with patience and perseverance can we realize the transcendental subject matter regarding the Absolute Truth and His different forms. He is formless to the neophytes, but He is in transcendental form to the expert servitor. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur-militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Zajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha-Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Hare Krishna Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasa Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So once again, Pashanyaru Madabra Chakshusha Sahasra Pradoda Pujananam Bhutam Sahasra Murda Shamanakshi Nashikam Sahasra Mauyam Barakuda Lolasat. The devotees, with their perfect eyes, see the transcendental form of the Purusha, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces, all extraordinary. In that body there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They are decorated with thousands of helmets and glowing earrings and are adorned with garlands. So this is a very wonderful and fabulous section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Shukadeva Goswami is continuing to answer the original 6 questions. Sukha Goswami is continuing to answer the original 6 questions of the sages of Naimisharanya. As we discussed last night, the Srimad Bhagavatam is a amazing conversation within a conversation within a conversation, and oftentimes, because primarily the conversation that's being depicted is the one between Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, but the actual origin of the conversation of the Bhagavatam is between Sutta Goswami and Shonaka Rishi, who is representing the sages of Naimisharanya. So those sages asked Sutta Goswami specifically 6 questions, and one of which was primarily around the different incarnations of the Lord. So he's answering in this chapter, and similar to what Dhananjaya Guru was speaking or asking last night, sometimes the Lord will, devotees will describe something that doesn't seem to be exactly correlated to the process of bhakti. Although, as devotees, we should understand that nothing is absent from bhakti. And for anything to be successful, there has to be some level of bhakti there. I was speaking with one devotee last night, and he was describing or feeling a little bit that sometimes we may deride other paths, or it may seem that we extol the path of bhakti as the supreme path, and that means all other paths are less. In fact, I remember when I finally came to the temple for the first time, a good friend of mine, he had introduced me to Krishna consciousness, but for the most part we just used to argue and debate. We were both kind of spiritually inclined through our years of growing up, but somehow he had gotten caught up with the happy clappy Hare Krishnas, and I had my own kind of, I think as I mentioned last night, practicing more or less Buddhist philosophy and meditation. So we used to argue, and I used to make up all my arguments based on whatever would come from the fleetings of my deep and profound intelligence. And he used to always say, but Bhagavad Gita says this, but Bhagavad Gita says that. And so I was very much influenced by this, I guess you could say, impersonal philosophy. So somehow or other he convinced me to come, because he gave me one book by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj. Spiritual Warrior is probably the first one. And I read that book, and because Maharaj spoke in such a way that was not overtly religious and spiritual, but very attractive to my new agey kind of mind, that I thought, wow, this is very cool. This seems different from what you keep telling me. So then after some time he mentioned to me, you know, the author of that book that I gave you, he's coming to the temple. Would you like to meet him? And of course I thought, wow, to meet the author of a book, that would be amazing, you know, and to meet the author of this book, that would be great. So that was the first time that I actually went to the temple. And it happened to be a Sunday morning, and Maharaj happened to be giving Chaitanya Charitamrita class. And anyone who had the fortune to experience a class by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj knew that although Maharaj had this side to him that was, you know, quite, how do you say, broad-minded, yeah. You know, he could speak to all levels of people, but whenever he would give, like, you know, Chaitanya Charitamrita class, he would give Chaitanya Charitamrita class. So there I was sitting for the first time thinking I was going to get some kind of wishy-washy Hare Krishna. And Maharaj was like, I mean, it's one of those things also when you come to the first time for the temple, you don't really, you know, everything's like... And all I remember is kind of getting this feeling that he should be a Christian preacher, because he was just saying, basically, we are the way and the truth and the light. Nobody gets to God but through us. And I seem to remember later, I realized that probably because he must have chanted the Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, 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 Gatira Nita. That there is no other way, no other way, no other way, but the chanting of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And because he was speaking with such enthusiasm and such vigor, at the end of the class I told my friend, I'm never coming back. Which, we can see it didn't work. But that was kind of the thing. So sometimes it can come across to people, even though we say we're non-sectarian, because we are non-sectarian, but people think, no, you're not non-sectarian because you want everyone to become like you. And that's not non-sectarian. So it's important for us to understand, what does it mean to be non-sectarian? It means that everyone can come to Krishna consciousness. But it doesn't mean that everyone in the whole world is going to be attracted to Krishna, even though he is the all-attractive. You know, even in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and throughout the Vedic scriptures, the Lord expands himself into so many different incarnations. Why? Why is it? To attract the different living entities. So what does that mean? It means that everyone may have a different attractive nature. Everyone may be attracted by slightly different things. In Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, who was one of the devotees who was attracted to someone else? Anyone remembers?
Murari Gupta.
Yes, Murari Gupta. And Murari Gupta was an incarnation of Hanuman. So who was he naturally attracted to?
Ram.
Lord Ram. Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Shri Ram. Right? So, but he was so attracted also to Lord Chaitanya, and so devout to Lord Chaitanya. But at one stage he was in tears, crying to Lord Chaitanya, you keep talking about Krishna, but I just can't give up my Ram. And I don't know if this is right. And did Lord Chaitanya say, Ram Kata is bogus! Abandon it at once. Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Krishna says that, not your Ram. Right? Did he say that? No. What did he say? He said it's perfectly fine because Ram and Krishna are non-different. Non-different. And we see on the front of the Bhagavatam, if you have the cover, that there are all these different planets in the spiritual world where the Lord has so many different manifestations. And they're all different manifestations simply to attract the devotees. And the devotees become attracted to different forms. And then we find out which form it is that we're attracted to. But my experience is that it's likely that if somehow you wound up in a Hare Krishna temple somewhere in the world, it's quite likely you're attracted to Krishna. Otherwise, you could be in so many other places. And Krishna, he is like the transcendental Pied Piper. Right? Everyone knows who the Pied Piper is? So we won't compare the devotees to rats. But he's like the transcendental Pied Piper. And when he plays his flute, right? Which in Kali Yuga, what is the flute? The Mridanga. The Mridanga is Krishna's flute in Kali Yuga. Lord Chaitanya, he takes up the Mridanga. And when playing the Mridanga and leading the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then souls become attracted. It's amazing. And today we'll be going out for a sacred street party. And you'll see, actually sometimes people come to the temple and they do interviews with us, and often they ask, do some people, have a negative response to your street chanting and to the Hare Krishnas? And of course some do. All of us have probably had some experience. But the majority of people, the vast majority of people, especially we go up and down Oxford Street, when they see the devotees, first they're stunned, like, what is this? If they don't know what the Hare Krishnas are, now if they kind of know what the Hare Krishnas are, sometimes they cross the street. But usually people are stunned, and the first thing that happens, especially in the modern day, is out comes the phone. And immediately they start taking pictures and videoing, and people, wind up laughing and dancing and clapping and just being like, wow, this is so amazing. So people are naturally attracted. But some people won't be attracted. And guess what? That's also okay. Because if they're attracted to anything, still they're attracted to Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is the all-attractive. He's the all-attractive force that exists within everything. And he goes through several places in the Bhagavad Gita and explains that all of his vibhutis, all of his opulences. And he says so many different things. The one that always stands out to me is, of fishes I am the shark. And there's a whole thing about that. But of fishes I am the shark, of mountains I am the Himalayas, I am the light of the sun and the moon, I am the taste of
water.
And he makes it so easy for us to recognize him everywhere and see him everywhere. But, as this verse is pointing out, if you don't have some bhakti, if you don't have some devotion, you will not see him anywhere. It's like a ghost town. Tumbleweed blowing through. There's no Krishna. I remember, again, when I kind of first joined, I went to visit a friend who was quite sick. And I was leaving his house and I had to walk to the bus stop, and I was standing at the bus stop and it was up on a hill, and you could kind of look down a little bit into a sort of valley and see houses and lots of cars. And I remember thinking, where is Krishna in all of this? Like this man-made society, people rushing around. Really, where is Krishna? Because sometimes it's really hard to see him. And because people often say, well, yeah, I don't see Krishna, show me Krishna, right? Prabhupada often used to get challenged also like this. And he would say, I'm seeing Krishna at every moment. I had the opportunity recently to be on a walk with His Holiness Radha Maharaj. And he was speaking, and everything he would look at, he would reflect back how this is like in a Krishna conscious way. how we can see the world if we have Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. If we have eyes that are anointed with the salve of love. Like at the moment, Big Ben in London, if you don't know, it's covered up by scaffolding. So a lot of people are in great distress because of that. Especially the tourists. But Maharaj looked at Big Ben and he said, just see. And we were all like, what do we see, Maharaj? What is it? What do we see? And Maharaj said, just see. This is exactly like Maya. And I thought, okay, yeah, I get that it is like Maya. But how's it like Maya? And Maharaj said, because that scaffolding is hiding time. Just like the illusory energy is hiding time from us. Meanwhile, time is daily stealing away our life. Then quite like that. And then he went on and he shared many other things. But the point is that when we're Krishna conscious, means when we're actually conscious. First we have to become conscious, right? Prabhupada said first become conscious, then become Krishna conscious. So many times we may still be in the slumber of sleep, not really even properly awake. But once we become conscious, then we start to become conscious also of Krishna. And how Krishna is in everything. Because Krishna is in everything, as these verses are explaining, and we'll go on to explain that the Lord expands himself and enters into every single atom. Every atom of matter, Krishna is present. So then you have to say, how could I have ever missed Krishna? How could I have ever not seen Krishna? And not only is he present in every atom of matter, but he is present in the heart of every single living entity. And for me, this is always so amazing that Krishna is so kind. Krishna is so loving that he comes as our companion into the material world, no matter what body we have. And we've had so many bodies. So many bodies we've had. Like last night we were reading this verse that says, by the end of this, what was it, by the time you give up this body, yeah. Before giving up this body. Which implies we've had at least one body before this. And we've probably had so many bodies. And Krishna was always there with us. And he's there with us right now. And he's not only with us, but he's there with every jiva. In the dog's body, in the cat's body, even in the mosquito, when it lands on you. You were just in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Did you have any mosquitoes landing on you?
Actually, no, I was lucky because I was living high.
Oh, so high up, altitude. But we know if you go to India, there's always danger of, Prabhupada would say, mosquito. Mosquito will come. But even in that little vehicle, there's a little jiva in there. And somehow next to that little jiva there is Krishna. And Krishna is saying, go on, bite that guy. Get some of that devotee blood. Have a little prasad. Come on. Yes. And the jiva gets benefited. Prabhupada said, you can only kill the mosquito after he has attacked, bitten you. So you let him get a drink. You can say, go on, take a little prasad now. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So then he gets prasad, guaranteed a human birth in the next life. Who knows, one of your future children might be that mosquito. if Krishna appeared, like in the pastime of King Chitraketu, right? He didn't know, he wanted a son so bad, but the son that was born to him was actually his enemy in a previous life. So we never know. But anyway, the point is that the Lord is there. He's there with us all the time, and he's always trying to speak to us. Yes? Mm-hmm. Do we hear him? Sometimes? All the time? No?
Sometimes.
Sometimes we hear him, but we just don't
Sometimes we don't listen.
listen. I remember Mother Irmala, she described very nicely once, we're doing for time, okay. Described very nicely once how Krishna from within, he will try to speak to us. And the more that we're tuned in, and in actual fact, the whole principle of Guru is to help us get in touch with the Chaitya Guru, with Krishna from within. That's why the spiritual master is considered the external manifestation of the Supersoul of Krishna. Because they're meant to be working in collaboration to help to guide us. But we're meant to be trained by the external manifestation in order to be able to hear from the internal. Because the famous saying is, at the end of the day, we all have to fly our own plane. You've ever heard that saying? We all have to fly our own plane. And it's quite likely that the spiritual master the external manifestation may not always be there. So he tries to help us so that we can hear properly what Krishna is saying from within. So Krishna is there within us trying to speak, but we don't listen. And Mother Irmala, she said that Krishna will try to speak to us from within. And if we hear him and we listen, then we'll try to act on that. Now, of course, we also know that it's not always so easy to ascertain what is Krishna and what is the mind. Yes, anyone has had that experience? What is Krishna and what is the mind? Yes. There may be so many things that we think of and we go, that seems like Maya. That's probably the mind. Usually the instructions from Krishna are a little more challenging. Like Bhagavad Gita is Krishna and Arjuna speaking. Well, where are they speaking? On the battlefield. And what is Krishna trying to say to Arjuna? It's right, Arjuna. This is all crazy. Let's go have a couple of coconuts in the forest with the sages, Forget this crazy fighting, Who wants all that? Let them kill each other. They're all mad anyway. I mean, Krishna could have said anything, right? But he didn't. What he did was he more or less challenged Arjuna to the core of who he was. Right? He was shaken. Should I do this? I don't think I should do this. And he had so many good reasons why not to do it. The first couple of times I read Bhagavad Gita, I was like, this doesn't make sense. The ending is not the way it should be. Arjuna is right. We want peace. Not war. Right? I was thinking Krishna seems a bit like a warmonger, Maybe this seems more like another religious text. Let's fight, let's kill. I was thinking, this doesn't make sense. Because we're covered. So when we get challenged like that, we want to run. Right? It's easier to run away sometimes than to stand and fight. Yujashva, right? To fight. And it doesn't necessarily mean fight, like if someone, beeps their horn at you and rolls down the window and shouts because you don't drive properly. It doesn't necessarily mean fight with them. Come on in! Come on! But it means sometimes that we have to fight with the material energy, fight with our own false ego. It's a perpetual fight with our own false ego. What? Me? I'm this, I'm that, I think so many things of myself. But we have to keep, the whole process of Krishna consciousness is simply breaking down this false ego. So Krishna is there trying to guide us, trying to help us, and sometimes the instructions that he gives from within will not be so easily heard. Why? Because we don't want to hear. My mother used to say, you have very selective hearing. And I'd be like, what'd you say? Because we only like to hear what we want to hear. Some other Amrita said, so if you don't hear Krishna from within, then Krishna will arrange for some devotee outside to speak to you. And you'll hear it almost like an echo, like a deja vu type of experience, where you'll be like, I was thinking that. You just said that, and somehow I felt like, yeah, I was getting that instinct from within. Or sometimes you may ask some devotee, I've been thinking like this. Do you think this is correct or that's correct? And they may respond, and you may think, yes, confirmation, right? Because we have three checks and balances in Krishna consciousness, right? What are those three checks and balances? Not checks like check for $1 million or something, but checks and balances. What are they?
Guru,
Shastra, Guru,
Sadhu.
and Sadhu. So we have Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So we have these three checks. So she says, if you can't hear from within Krishna speaking, then Krishna will arrange for a devotee to speak to you from without. But if you can't hear from within and you can't hear from without, then Krishna will arrange for a experience so that you hear, you understand. Yes? Anyone has had that experience? So it's like that sometimes. And then we go through this experience and we think, I knew I shouldn't have done this. Why did I do that? I heard it from within. Even my best devotee friend told me, and still I did it, right? And it's so relevant. These things happen, right? Everyone's had this kind of experience. And it's so relevant. Even 5,000 years ago, Arjuna asked, Krishna, what is it that makes a man act against his will even though he knows better? What is it? And what did Krishna say? Kama Esha, Krodha Esha. Kama Esha. It is lust only that impels us. And when we say lust, it doesn't just mean lust like the lustful attraction between man and woman, or man and man, or woman and woman, or whatever it goes on in Kali Yuga. It's not just this sexual thing, but lust means the strong desire to control or exploit something or someone for my own personal pleasure. So it's not limited. Lust is not limited to just, it's the propensity to dominate and control for my pleasure. This is lust. And this is what impels us to act, right? Because we know better, but we still do something else. So, here Srila Prabhupada is saying so many wonderful things in the purport about how we have to develop the eyes to see. And today we'll be going out. Hopefully, is everyone planning to go out, or at least some? Everyone who's here is going out? Oh, wow, this is amazing. There's a call from the kitchen. So, today we'll be going out and we'll get the opportunity to practice. Now, it's not always so easy, but I remember one senior devotee when he came to Soho to do book distribution for some time, and he used to share with us how he would try to meditate when he was interacting with someone. And this isn't so easy because you have to be able to do quite a few things at the same time. But at least I realized, even if I couldn't do this intense meditation of trying to meditate on the super soul within the heart of that jiva while I'm speaking to them, and convince, the super soul to please give him a good nudge so that he takes the book. Because that's what Krishna is trying to do from within, right? He's trying to encourage us to come closer to him. And here you have a devotee standing right in front of you, offering you the best gift you could ever possibly get to bring you closer to him. But sometimes people just don't hear. So he would say sometimes he would be meditating on Super Soul in the heart of that jiva, praying, please wake up this jiva, so that he just takes this book. Not for his own, please wake this jiva up to take this book and give me 50 quid. It's not like that fruitive mentality, but with the mentality that the Super Soul is there. And if Super Soul gives him a nudge and wakes him up, then he might take the book. So like this, even if we don't meditate exactly like that, but we have to see that every person out on the street that we'll meet today is possibly a person who's ready to take that next step. And we should approach them with respect and with a grateful heart, but at the same time detached. Like Vaisheshika Prabhu, he's done so much wonderful work for the Sankirtan mission, because his mood and spirit is that everyone should leave with a positive experience, a favorable impression. And it's such big preaching, actually. We don't understand it, we don't always get it. But if someone walks away, even if they don't take a book, or even if they don't give a penny, but they walk away and they think in their mind, I don't know about those guys, but he was very nice. She was very nice. She was a very pleasant person. Immediately, Krishna begins to look favorably upon them. Krishna immediately begins to start to make other arrangements for them to meet devotees again. I'll tell you, would you like to hear a Sankirtan story?
Yeah.
Maybe you've heard it before. Because I only have about 2 Sankirtan stories. Tell them wherever I go. But once I was distributing books, and I met this guy, and he was quite inimical, actually. First he came up and he said, what are you doing here? Why do you guys come to this town? Why don't you go somewhere else? And my base core instinct was like, what if I just punch you in the nose and you go away? Because that's unfortunately my rude, angry nature. But I thought, no, you have to control that nature. And I said, well, we came here specifically to speak to nice people like you. And he laughed, and that's good. Once you can get someone to laugh, you're doing good. But anyway, we had this conversation, and in the end, he was going to walk away. He didn't want the book, didn't want to give a donation. And then I said to him, just give 1 penny. 1 pence. And then I said, our spiritual master says that even if you give 1 penny, you will receive eternal benefit. I said, now we may be wrong, but if you had the opportunity to place a bet for 1 penny, and you would win an eternal check for however much you liked, wouldn't you take the chance? And he said, that's good. And he said, okay, but I'll only give you 1 penny. And he gave 1 penny. Now usually when you get people to give after telling them something, they usually at least give a quid, This guy, he just only gave 1 penny. But I was so happy, and I said, thank you. And I took that penny, and I was actually praying for that guy, because I was thinking, he overcame a lot just to give that 1 penny. That was a big thing for him. And I was praying to Krishna, please, help him. Now, as anyone who does book distribution knows regularly, it's not a normal thing that when you go back to the same place, you don't always meet the same people. It's quite a rare thing. So if you meet someone again, it's like, okay, Krishna has some plan here. So some months later, I was in that town again, and that same guy came up to me. And he said, what did I tell you? What are you doing here? But he was more jovial about it. And he remembered me, and I remembered him. So we had a little chat, and he approached me, he was very much more favorable. And so in the end, I said he was going to go, he wasn't going to take a book, he wasn't going to give a donation. I said, come on, man, what are you doing? I said, at least give a donation. Last time you gave a penny. I said, how have things been? He said, actually, I felt like I've had a bit of good luck ever since I gave you that penny. And I said, so why don't you, hedge your bets? I said, at least give a quid. And he said, okay, I'll give you a quid. And again, he just gave a quid. And he went away. Then months later, I was there again, and I met him again. And this time he came up to me, and he said, I've been waiting for you to come back. He said, I've been thinking about you regularly. And I thought, well, that's not so good for you. At least somehow, if I'm trying to be connected to Krishna, hopefully Krishna will appreciate the fact. But he's like, And I was thinking about how we spoke and how we had these nice interactions. And he said, I want one of your books. And I said, wow, that is amazing. And then he asked for the book. And I said, we don't give them for free. And he said, no, I'm happy to give a donation because I want the book. Of course you have to buy books, And I thought, yeah, of course. So anyway, he gave a donation. I can't remember. I think he gave like £5. But he gave a donation, he took the book and we chatted. And then he went away. Now, after that, I didn't go back to the town anymore. I haven't been back in many, many years. So I don't know what happened to him. But the point is that he kept increasing his adhikar, his qualification. His qualification to be able to get the book. So not everyone will be qualified to receive it in the first instance. There may be so many things there. But if we can get them to at least have a favorable experience and make a good impression, then that will do so much for them. So we can try to see when we go out today that every jiva is a part and parcel of Krishna. Jivara Swarupoi Krishna and Nityadas. They're all parts and parcels of Krishna. All of them. And we're just trying to help bring them. And we can pray to Krishna, please send someone today who wants to come closer to you. You know the story about Mother Devi Shakti? You've heard of Mother Devi Shakti? She's one Mataji. She was doing book distribution in LA. And then in the early days, they would travel around to all the different places in America. So she would also do book distribution in New York. But she says herself, she wasn't really a big book distributor. But she used to go out every day and she used to pray. And she used to pray, please Krishna, just let me meet at least one sincere soul today. One sincere soul who wants to come closer to you. Please let me meet them and help them come closer. And what is this the mood of? This is the mood of the gopis. This is the mood of gopis. Monday is the appearance day of Srimati Radharani. Tomorrow there'll be class and program here.
Today is Lalita Shashti. So.
That's right, thank you. Today is Lalita Shashti. So this is the mood of the gopis. To bring others to Krishna. So she used to pray like this intensely. And of course in the early days also some devotees started this program called the Gopi Baba Club. And they were all reading the pastimes of the gopis in Krishna over and over again in the Bhagavatam and in Krishna book. And then news reached Prabhupada and he was not very happy. But they thought he would be happy because they were trying to manifest the mood of the gopis within themselves so in their next life they could become gopis. But then Prabhupada said that this book distribution, this Sankirtan, this is the real Gopi Baba Club. Gopi Baba means Baba, the mood, the love that the gopis have. So Devi Shakti Mataji, when she would go out on books, she would pray like this. Please let me just meet one soul. And then she made so many amazing devotees. Devamrita Maharaj is a devotee because of Devi Shakti Mataji. And he tells the amazing story of how she was such a sincere Sankirtan devotee. Chandramali Maharaj, I think Prahladananda Maharaj, the big book distributor in LA. Brigupati Prabhu. I think there's
I think Niranjan Swami.
Maybe even Niranjan Maharaj. There's about 10 sannyasi guru GBCs whom she met the first time on the street. This is the potency of prayer. Of praying to Krishna. Now we can pray to Lalita Devi, we can pray to Srimati Radharani to please become instruments of her love. Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And that mood is just bring everybody, give everybody that opportunity of that love that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna. So we can try to have this mood today when we go out to pray. And then who knows who we might meet? Who knows who might walk through these doors? or any door in the world, because I guess Newcastle is also a little bit of a metropolitan city. Most cities are these days. So they may not come here, but they may go back to wherever they come from. We meditate on that on Oxford Street because Prabhupada said you can reach the whole world from Oxford Street. And I used to count how many countries I was sending books to by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. How many counties, how many towns in the UK we were sending books to. And people would go away and people would become devotees. So we just have to make the endeavor. The result is up to Krishna. But if we make the sincere endeavor in the trying, there is perfection. So we simply have to try our best like that. I'll stop here. I've rambled on far too long. And I didn't even ask for any reflections. I didn't do the thing I mentioned last night. So, because you don't have to do that all the time. But, so does anyone have any reflections or anything they would like to share? And your name, Mother Sharadiya Rasa? Is that it? Radha-Krishna, please go ahead. And you're giving class tomorrow on the appearance day of Srimati Radharani, yes? Very nice. Radha-Krishna. What is your reflection?
I was reflecting on how in the Brahma Samhita, Prabhupada translated as anointed with the salve of love. But in the purport here, he mentions devotional service.
Yes.
So I think he's done that, with very good intent and with proper purpose, because the word love can mean so many things to so many people. In this context, it could be misconstrued very easily. But in Brahma Samhita, I guess there's a lot of definition already of what that love means before they can just plop it there. So that's my reflection basically on how he gave the translation differently in different places. But essentially, that's what it means, service. Love means service.
Very nice. Yes. Actually, Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada explains this very nicely. It's either in the introduction of the preface, and he speaks about the principle of bhakti. Because sometimes when you say you do bhakti yoga, people say, oh, bhakti is the yoga of love. Bhakti is, but Prabhupada said some people translate bhakti as devotion, which love and devotion kind of go hand in hand. But he said, but it's not a, he said bhakti is an active principle. It's not like idle meditation. And he said, so bhakti doesn't just mean love, because love doesn't mean anything without action. And I often say, sometimes, like, especially between men and ladies, men will say, I love you. And then ladies will say, don't just tell me you love me. You have to show me. Put your money where your mouth is. You have to, actions speak louder than words. So more than words, there has to be action. So devotion, you can say, and we've all met people who say, I know Krishna, I'm with Krishna all the time, I'm devoted to Krishna. And then they smoke a cigarette and drink a beer and walk away. And you're like, hello. So love has to be shown through action. And thus, Srila Prabhupada says, so therefore, bhakti doesn't just mean devotion or love, it means devotional service. Because if you love someone, then you serve them. You show them with your actions. Thank you very much for that reflection. Very nice. Yes?
I had a reflection as well. Actually, I'm just going to reflect on that reflection. Just when, we were talking about how love can be quite an obscure thing, and many people say, oh, I love Krishna. And one godbrother of mine, many years ago, he met a person of another religious persuasion on the streets when he was doing book distribution. And this girl was saying, oh, I love God, I just love God so much. And my godbrother, he said, you don't love God. He said, it's taken me 7 years to realise the only person I love is myself. Which I thought was a very honest appraisal. But anyway, So anyway, but also I was going to reflect on, I liked the point you were making. I'm not recommending that's what we should do today. We should leave people with a favourable impression, but sometimes, it's about controlling the tongue, right? The mind may say something. We were talking about that last night. But I thought actually it's funny, it's taken me so many years to realise I don't, I'm the same, I only love myself. But so I liked the point you were making about how this is the real Gopi Bhav Club, going and just trying to connect everyone to Krishna, to bring people back to Krishna. And when you were talking about the penny, where this man gave a penny, I really liked that actually. Hedge your bets if you're a betting man.
Yeah.
There was something called Pascal's wager, which is something in relation to that.
Okay.
Well, I'll just tell you that quickly. Pascal's wager, it says that you can either gamble that there is a God or there isn't a God. He said if you gamble that there is a God and then there isn't, then you've not lost anything because you've still led a nice life. He said, but if you gamble that there isn't a God and then there is, then you've lost everything. That's called Pascal's wager.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, so I remember when I was still at university, but I was going along to the temple in Liverpool. And so throughout the week, I used to find pennies on the floor. When you're walking on the street, you find a penny, you find 5p's. And the devotees had trained me up in such a way to understand that we're trying to reconnect everyone back to Krishna, engage people in people's service. So throughout the week, I would collect up all these pennies, and then on a Sunday, I'd go with about 36p or something in 5p's and 1p's and 2p's. And I'd put them all in the donation box because I was thinking, that's someone's first surrender to Krishna. And I thought that was such a nice mood that the devotees taught. And I've always remembered that. Even sometimes I would... It's a bit naughty, but sometimes I'd see like wishing wells and things like that. I remember in Edinburgh, there used to be a and I used to, when no one was watching, I'd collect
It's
them.
for Krishna.
When no one was watching.
You got that nice car, huh?
Yeah.
And for some reason you always find them. He's always like picking up.
Yeah, so even today when I do that, when I see a penny on the floor, I say, Lakshmi Devi Kija, and I pick it up and I purposefully think, this is going to be someone's first donation to Krishna. So I just think about the penny principle, and also how we should really all the time be trying to think, how can I connect this person to Krishna?
Perfect.
So thank you for
Thank you. Amazing.
explaining that.
Anyone else? Some reflection, please? Yes.
I don't have a reflection, but a question.
Okay.
So before, when you were speaking about people of other faiths and how we shouldn't have so much pride in thinking that ours is better than yours, so we shouldn't be looking down on people. Sometimes I struggle with that because it's just the nature of criticism. So when you see somebody of other faith, but you, especially when it comes to meat eating, that's what I struggle with the most, because in my head I'm just thinking, how are you loving God if you're not loving His creation? And it's just something, and I don't know, how can I have such a perspective in which it's just like confusion, just how should I deal with that?
Maybe I can try to make sure that I've understood your question. So you're saying that when it comes to dealing with people of other faiths, sometimes you become disturbed because you see that they just can't understand even the most simplest of common denominators of love for Krishna, or love for God and principle, and especially around the principle of eating meat. They just don't understand that you have to love God's creatures and God's creation. So how do you deal with that when you become so disturbed and you want to not be judgmental and you want to leave them with a favorable impression? How to do that? Yeah, this is often a challenge. We really have to. I mentioned last night about the idea that Krishna consciousness is simple, but the application can be a little bit challenging sometimes. So there's often the principle of renunciation that's more difficult to invoke. Of all the opulences, this is the one that's most difficult. And sometimes we have to be detached from the result, but attached to Krishna, and trust that Krishna will take care and look after these people. And at the end of the day, actually, now this isn't a rule, but this can help us to understand that the principle of even eating meat, although as abominable as it is, and we know that if you kind of get back into that habit, you've really sunk down. But Srila Prabhupada made a statement once to one of his devotees that in order to preach, even if you have to eat meat, you should preach. So we should remember that it's, the consciousness with which you do things. And Prabhupada bumped into these winos in the park one time, right? And they were drinking some alcohol, and they offered it to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, no. You can enjoy it. He said, but whenever you drink that wine, just remember that Krishna is the taste in that wine. And then he walked off, and the devotees were all like flabbergasted, Prabhupada, why didn't you blast him? Why didn't you tell him, what's going to happen if he keeps drinking that wine? So they asked Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, no, if he drinks that wine every day thinking that Krishna is the taste in that wine, eventually he'll give it up. Because the thought of Krishna will become so prominent that he'll start to think about Krishna more than he's thinking about the wine. So the whole process is gradual. And it's better that we leave a positive impression. I had this experience the first time that I went home to visit my mother. I went home more or less dressed like this, and I asked her, are you going to be okay with me being like this with you? And she's like, you're my son, I love you however you are. So we would go out, and we went to, in America they have this place called Walmart. You probably heard of it. So we went into Walmart. Where my parents live is near West Virginia, so the Walmart is in West Virginia. And if you know anything about West Virginia, apart from New Brindavan, which is in West Virginia, but pretty much everyone else there is like, so they got their own outlook on life, So anyway, we went to the checkout counter, and there was this lady, and she was taking stuff, and then she looked at me and she went, "What religion are you?" That thing inside me, like, I'm Kalki Dave, push you up. I went, I'm a Hare Krishna. Have you heard of Hare Krishna? And, because I just thought, at least I'm going to get a few holy names. And she said, no, I'm a Christian. And I said, that's wonderful, amazing. And I said, do you read the Bible? Because most Christians don't even read the Bible. And she said, yes, it's beside my bedstand. I read it every night. And I said, that's wonderful. God bless you. May Jesus save you. And I just walked away. And my mom was fuming, She was like, I'm going to go back in there. And I said, it's okay. She's just ignorant. I mean, what can you do? People are ignorant. They don't know. They've never been given knowledge. Prabhupada says all the time that people are making decisions because they have a poor fund of knowledge. I mean, what does that mean? It means they haven't accessed this. So, even now Christians come, of course I try to avoid them usually when I'm on the streets, especially once I realize they will just go on and on and on, and I realize they just come to waste my time, so distract me. But I just, usually as soon as they say, well, I'm a Christian, I'm like, that is wonderful, amazing. Will you please pray for me? Because that's usually the next thing that's coming. I said, because I need all the help I can get. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. May God shower His blessings upon you. And then, see you later. Because I'm not really going to spend, because I went through that so much in the early days. And what I realized was it was something in me that hadn't been purified. That's why Krishna kept sending these people to me, because you do that on Sankirtan, you meet your anartas. Like in the flesh, they show up to you and they're like, and you're like, where did you come from? I came from right in there. I'm the mirror of what you need to look at. So I just realized that it's okay for them to be Christians. I'm not able to turn their faith. It's okay, or whatever faith they may be from. But if they're a little honest, like Prabhupada says about the Bhagavatam, in order to really enter into the Bhagavatam, you have to be a little honest. So if they're a little honest, then you can have a conversation. And on Janmashtami, we had the kind of priest from a nearby church, and he came. And at first I was a little nervous because, it's like, even though I do interfaith stuff, but I thought, you never know how it's going to go. And we wound up having this intensely deep conversation about Lord Chaitanya and the mood of separation from God and the development of pure love for God. And we were talking for like half an hour, 30 minutes, and we were like, it was like, this is nectar. We were like, and he was sharing from his side, and because it is there everywhere, and all the religions that those who go deep, they find the deepness. But lots of people are just skating on the surface. So what can we do? We can try to help, but if they don't want to take it, then thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. And then you just have to let them be in Krishna's hands. But if they go away with a favorable experience, it will be beneficial. If they go away blaspheming you, it will not be beneficial for them. Does that make sense? And you can always pray for them, like they always want to. Pray for us. It's a good thing. Isn't it good to pray for other people? Isn't it good if I say, I'm going to pray for you, and you say you're going to pray for me? I'm like, good, I need it. So we can pray for them. Okay, maybe last point.
Yeah, just one point towards you. But you mentioned as well, like Prabhupada has famously said that there is bhakti in every religion.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find that.
That's right.
Yeah.
There can be no success without bhakti, ultimate success. Okay.
I was just thinking, also just in relation to Milan's point, my spiritual master says that we're no better than anyone else, but we're just more fortunate than everyone else. We talk about sometimes, we avoid the envious, and he said most people are just innocent. They just don't need better. Like myself, my example is whenever I used to go out for a meal, if it was a birthday or something, I would always have a mixed grill, which is every type of meat you can possibly get. And that was what I loved. But as soon as I read Prabhupada's books, I thought, I didn't know there was anything wrong, because I'd been brought up like that, In some cultures you're brought up to think that's bad, but if you're brought up in England or America, in West Virginia, that's normal. You don't think there's anything wrong with it, because that's what you've been taught. But when I read Prabhupada's books, it was like, and then so we're not any better, we're just more fortunate. And I was just thinking in relation to what Julian was saying about bhakti in everything. Sometimes I meet religious people and I think, actually, they're much more devoted than I am. If I could be half as devoted as they were, or know the Bible as well as, I know the Bhagavad Gita or whatever, then, So sometimes it's, I was just thinking that's a nice reflection as well. And so, sorry.
Is your program?
Yeah, no, we better stop that. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Again, it's really nice to be here with all of you. Very inspiring. I feel uplifted and inspired in my devotional life by being here in your association. So I thank you. Radha-Krishna. Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Newcastle ki
Jai.
Shri Panchatattva ki
Jai.
Premanandi.
Haribo. His Grace Jai Nitai Prabhu ki. Jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,